Let's talk sleep. As a coach, working with clients who have varying goals relative to performance, physique, and general health, sleep habits get brought up on the regular, considering both sleep quality as well as sleep quantity. Unfortunately, few people recognize how impactful their sleep habits actually are relative to the goals that they have. So you might have a physique goal. Either you want to lose quite a bit of extra weight or simply get leaner. Sleep is going to be a very powerful contributing factor. If your goals are performance-based, whether you want to be fitter, or you want to be stronger, or you want to have better conditioning, sleep is going to be impactful. If you're just considering general health and longevity, and you want to lower your risk factor for future illness, sleep is going to be a contributing factor. Time and time again, you're going to find it in that foundation of basic habits that if you're neglecting, regression and risk will inevitably rear their ugly heads. So when I sit down to evaluate a client's lifestyle habits, oftentimes sleep is one of the most neglected factors, considering both quality and quantity. Sometimes it's just one or the other. Somebody might attempt to sleep for 8 hours, but they're up every 2 hours. Some people just don't consider the fact that they should be aiming to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep. So, they go to bed at 11 knowing they have to wake up at 4 o'clock for work. And as a byproduct, they start developing these extremely difficult to break routines that are actually very detrimental, often unbeknownst to the individual who has developed such a regressive habit. And so one of the first things that I'll bring up as a coach is, what some of the benefits are to prioritizing that quality sleep and quantity of sleep. Unfortunately, there's a specific group of people who, regardless of how great those benefits may appear to be, they're just not interested because it's not the extra that they might have in their life that motivates them. It's not the fact that they might have more energy. It's not the fact that they'll lose weight faster. It's not the fact that they're going to be able to train harder and feel better about themselves. That's of very little interest to them. So oftentimes a brief pivot will occur in which we'll start talking about what might happen if they don't make changes. Because sure, some people are naturally drawn to the progressive yield of prioritizing the progressive development of a habit, but others are wired differently. It's not right or wrong, but they're more likely to be motivated by the detrimental effects of a bad habit if it's not prioritized considering progressive development. So in short, here are 5 of the most common detrimental effects of chronic sleep deprivation that I highlight to individuals who are struggling to consider the importance of their sleep quality and quantity. The first one is a compromised immune system. And this is important to note because if you suffer from chronic sleep deprivation, you're going to find that you're much more likely to get sick, and oftentimes you're going to be sick for longer periods of time relative to whatever it is you may have contracted as a byproduct of that compromised immune system. Another common risk factor is an increased risk for type 2 diabetes. And this is important to note because this occurs for 2 primary reasons. The first one being is it's going to compromise your insulin sensitivity, as well as the fact that you're much more likely to overeat and make poor food decisions when you're sleep deprived. So a double whammy. Not only is it going to negatively affect your body's ability to metabolize food, but you're also much more likely to consume poor food choices. You are also at much higher risk if chronically sleep deprived of developing obesity. This is important to note as well, and it kind of goes hand in hand with number 2. We often see both of these outcomes either show up at the same time or in around the same period of time. And a lot of this, again, has to do with the fact that your body's ability to metabolize food is compromised when you're chronically sleep deprived, as well as the reality that you're much more likely to eat more, as well as to make further detrimental food choices on a consistent basis. An often overlooked byproduct of chronic sleep deprivation is an increased risk for anxiety and depression. And last, but certainly not least, this is definitely not an exhaustive list, is an increased risk for memory loss, compromised cognition. And now these certainly aren't all the risk factors, but they're certainly valuable ones to consider, as not one person that I've had the fortune to coach has been interested in any of these being more likely to occur in their life. And even though sometimes the benefits of prioritizing their quality sleep and quantity of sleep isn't all that enticing, the potential downside if they don't is certainly a motivating factor for them. So something to consider. If you don't seem like you're missing out on the upside, could just be a personal preference, you might want to consider the potential downside, and further, the importance of prioritizing that quality and quantity of sleep.